second, just imagine being hunted out of a city. You're bleeding. You're completely alone in a freezing desert. And, the very people you've dedicated your entire life to saving have just violently rejected you.
Right, yeah, chasing you away with stones.
Exactly. With stones, you have literally no allies, no sanctuary, and from the outside, seemingly no future. But as you stand there in the dark, speaking your truth into this empty night, an entirely different, hidden civilization stops to listen.
It is, honestly, the ultimate counterintuitive moment in human history. I mean, we usually assume that power is built in, palaces or boardrooms through these highly visible victories.
Right, through immediate validation.
Exactly. But today's focus challenges that entirely. We are looking at a narrative where true, enduring legacy was forged in the absolute darkest, most impossible moments of isolation.
Which is exactly why we are bringing this to you today. In this deep dive, we are exploring a profoundly emotional, just awe-inspiring era. We're looking at the life of Prophet Muhammad, the legacy of the greatest man who ever lived.
It's such a heavy, beautiful subject.
It really is. And specifically, we're zeroing in on a period of immense hardship, a time when he faced closed doors at every single turn, yet met them with a resilience and a grace that, that fundamentally altered the trajectory of human history.
Yeah, and to truly appreciate the weight of this era, you have to understand the sociological pressure cooker of early Mecca. I mean, the early followers weren't just casually subscribing to some new philosophy.
No, not at all.
They were risking complete social, economic, and physical annihilation. We're talking about companions who literally used their own bodies to shield the prophet from incoming rocks and arrows.
Wow.
Yeah, that level of devotion, it isn't won through political promises. It's won through just undeniable character.
And to really understand the dawn of this movement, you have to feel the weight of that night. So let's start with that visceral image I mentioned earlier, right? The rejection at Taif.
Such a heartbreaking moment.
Truly. The prophet travels to this neighboring city, Taif, to share his message, hoping for just a sliver of sanctuary because Mecca has become entirely too dangerous. But instead, the leaders there not only refuse him, they actually unleash the crowds.
Right, the sheer cruelty of it.
Yeah, the adults and even the children chase him out, throwing stones until his shoes are, literally filled with blood. From a purely analytical standpoint, it just looks like a catastrophic failure.
Oh, from a physical and strategic standpoint, it was devastating.
Right.
She was driven out into this desolate valley, physically broken, with no political alliances gained, and literally nowhere safe to return to.
But history has this incredible way of hiding its most vital turning points in plain sight. Because while the mob was throwing rocks, and here's where it gets really interesting, a young boy named Khaled al-Wani from the Thaqif tribe was standing right there in that hostile crowd.
Yeah, but he wasn't joining in.
Exactly. He didn't have a stone in his hand. He was just listening. He heard the prophet reciting a surah, a chapter of the Quran, and something in the cadence or the meaning or maybe just the sheer composure of this man under fire, it completely captivated him.
He just absorbed it.
Right. He memorized it right then and there. And years later, that seed germinated and Khalid grew up to become a Muslim. It's like planting a seed in the dead of winter. It looks like absolutely nothing is happening on the surface.
But beneath the soil, those roots are forming, which perfectly illustrates the delayed return on investment when it comes to doing what is right. The prophet couldn't have known that a child in a violent mob was quietly taking in the message.
No way he could have known.
Right, and the psychological mechanism here is just fascinating. When you maintain your integrity under extreme duress, it creates this profound cognitive dissonance in the observer.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, the mob expects you to break, right?
Yeah.
To curse them or to match their hatred. And when you don't, the more perceptive observers like Khaled, they realize they are witnessing something transcendent.
We actually see that exact same mechanism play out just moments later, don't we?
Yeah.
The prophet is resting in an orchard. He's exhausted and bleeding. And a Christian servant named Adis brings him some grapes.
Just a totally mundane moment.
Totally mundane. But before eating, the prophet simply says, Bismillah, in the name of Allah.
A single phrase. But, in the polytheistic, highly tribal landscape of 7th century Arabia, attributing your sustenance to this singular, unseen creator before eating, that wasn't just unusual, it was a complete paradigm shift.
Right, it stopped Adis in his tracks.
Exactly. Adis just stops. That unfamiliar word sparks a curiosity leading to this deep conversation about the prophets of old, like Jonah. And simply through the calm, undeniable truth of his character in a moment of extreme vulnerability, the prophet inadvertently invites Adis to faith.
It's incredible. The macro level doors, like the tribal leaders, the city elites, they are violently slamming shut.
Right.
But the micro level doors, the unseen doors, they are flying wide open.
They really are.
Which brings us back to that desert night I talked about. The prophet is out there completely alone, reciting the Quran. Humanity has essentially turned its back. But beings from the unseen world, the jinn, are completely captivated.
Right, the jinn. And for those who might not know, in Islamic theology, these are intelligent entities created from smokeless fire, and they live parallel to humanity.
So they're right there, just out of sight.
Exactly. They have their own societies, their own free will, their own belief systems. They can observe our world even though we cannot see theirs.
So he's reading into what he thinks is an absolute void, but he's actually broadcasting to a hidden society that immediately recognizes the weight of his words.
And the nuance of what they recognize is key here. The famous Quranic commentator Al-Qurtubi points out a really brilliant detail in the text. The jinn specifically say they heard a book revealed after Moses.
Oh, wow, after Moses.
Yeah. Al-Qurtubi posits that these were likely Jewish jinn from Yemen. Think about the profound irony there. The humans in his immediate vicinity couldn't see past their tribal politics to recognize a prophet standing right in front of them.
Wow.
Yet this unseen society instantly heard the historical and theological echoes of the ancient message of Moses. They recognized the continuity of the divine truth.
That is just mind-blowing. But, okay, let's ground this in the physical reality of the moment, too. Because spiritual validation is beautiful, but it doesn't stop physical arrows.
No, it doesn't.
He still desperately needs a secure base. Mecca, his home, is hostile territory now. He's effectively stateless.
Exactly. He couldn't just casually stroll back into Mecca. By ancient Arab custom, he needed a formal guarantor of protection just to physically enter the city gates.
Which leads to this incredibly tense sequence. He sends requests out to these powerful Meccan leaders. Al-Akhnas bin Sharik rejects him. Suhail bin Amr rejects him. He's really running out of options.
This man is taking.
Yeah, but finally, a man named Mutim bin Adi agrees. And Mutim doesn't just send a letter or give his word. He arms 6 or 7 of his own sons and has them physically flank the prophet, guarding him step by step as he walks to the Kaaba.
It's an amazing image, but it was just a temporary patch. Mutim's protection kept the prophet alive, but the societal deadlock remained entirely intact.
Right, he was safe, but trapped.
Exactly. The message couldn't breathe, let alone expand, under what was essentially armed house arrest. The prophet recognized that a completely new foundation was necessary. So this initiates an agonizing multi-year process of pitching his message during the Hajj season.
Which was the annual pilgrimage where tribes from all over Arabia gathered in Mecca.
Right. And this isn't just a simple list of rejections, When you look closely, you see this mounting escalation of political temptations.
Yeah.
It's not just that the tribes say no, it's how they say no and what they demand in return.
Like when he goes to Banu Kalb.
Yes, he goes to Banu Kalb, and they flat out refuse.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes to Banu Abdullah, and he even compliments them, saying God gave them a beautiful name, but they still reject him.
And then you have Banu Hanifa, who deliver this incredibly hostile, just arrogant refusal.
Which, by the way, is a masterstroke of historical irony.
Right.
Decades later, that exact tribe, Banu Hanifa, would rally behind the false prophet Musaylima.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they led the bloodiest, most brutal revolt against the early Muslim state. Their arrogance that day wasn't just a bad move, it was a deeply ingrained cultural hubris.
That's wild. But amidst this giant wall of rejection, the temptation of actual power suddenly presents itself. He meets the Banu Amir tribe. Their leader, Behara, listens to the prophet, and you can almost see the gears turning in his head, right?
Well, absolutely. He's calculating.
Exactly. He doesn't see a spiritual awakening. He sees a massive geopolitical asset. Behara actually says out loud, I could eat up the Arabs with this man. He sees the prophet's brilliance and just wants to weaponize it.
Behara makes a very calculated offer. He essentially says, we will protect you. We will fight for you. But if God gives you victory over your opponents, does the political authority pass to us afterward?
Now, wait. I have to push back here just on behalf of anyone listening. From a pure survival standpoint, why not just take the deal? I mean, he is desperate.
But it seems like the logical move.
His followers are literally being tortured. He's living under the constant threat of assassination. Survival 101 says you shake hands, you secure the army, survive today, and worry about the geopolitical fallout tomorrow.
It's a completely logical question from a secular political perspective. But what's fascinating here is that it completely misunderstands the nature of his mission.
How so?
Well, if he accepts Behara's terms, the movement ceases to be a divine revelation. It instantly degrades into just another standard Arabian power struggle. The prophet understood that the method must be as pure as the message.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
He looked Behara directly in the eye and stated clearly that sovereignty belongs to God alone. He places it where he wills.
So he flat out refuses to guarantee a political payout. And because of that, Behar just walks away.
He walks away, totally thinking he dodged a bad investment. But there's a fascinating epilogue to this encounter. When the Banu Amir return to their home territory, they tell an elder of their tribe about the meeting.
And the elder realizes what they did.
Instantly, the old man listens, puts his hand to his forehead, and is overcome with absolute despair. He tells them, "Can a bird return to its nest? Can this missed opportunity ever be retrieved?"
Goosebumps.
Right. The elder recognized the sociological impossibility of a man making such a profound, uncompromising claim without genuine divine backing. He knew his tribe had just walked away from shaping history.
That refusal to compromise core values really sets the stage for an even more intense negotiation later on. The prophet approaches the Banu Shayban tribe, and this time he brings along his closest companion, Abu Bakr.
This is such a great sequence.
Now, I find this part wild because Abu Bakr doesn't just sit there quietly. He acts like a corporate auditor conducting a massive tribal credit check.
That's a great way to put it. Abu Bakr was uniquely equipped for this. He was practically a walking encyclopedia of Arab genealogy.
Which was huge back then.
Oh, in a society without centralized government, your lineage was literal everything. It was your legal framework, it was your mutual defense pact, your social security. Abu Bakr's knowledge was a massive strategic tool.
But help me understand this, because I'm sure you are wondering this too. If the prophet is bringing a universal spiritual message meant for all humanity, why is Abu Bakr interrogating their bloodlines?
Right. It seems contradictory.
Yeah, shouldn't faith be blind to whether you're from a noble branch or some minor offshoot?
Ideologically, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The message is for everyone. But practically speaking, they were seeking a political sanctuary, a physical safe haven for the community to exist without being slaughtered.
Okay, so it's a security assessment.
Exactly. Abu Bakr needed to know if this tribe actually had the geopolitical weight to honor a protection pact. If a minor, weak tribe offered protection, the Meccans would simply crush them both. Abu Bakr was assessing their defensive viability.
And the dialogue during this assessment is just electric. Abu Bakr goes back and forth with this sharp young intellectual from the tribe named Dagfal. It's rapid-fire intellectual sparring.
Yeah, just back and forth.
Are you the trunk or the branches? Are you allied with this king or that warrior? Dagfal really holds his own, proving the Banu Shayban are a formidable, fiercely independent force.
And the Banu Shayban leadership, particularly a commander named Muthanna, are deeply impressed by this. They realize they aren't dealing with desperate refugees. They are negotiating with men of profound dignity and strategic foresight.
Right, they command respect.
So Muthanna makes a very serious offer. He essentially says, "We have thousands of men. We are ferocious in battle. We will be your shield."
But then comes the catch, the famous Sassanid clause.
Exactly. Muthanna explains their geographical reality. Their tribal lands border both the Arab territories and the massive superpower Sassanid Persian Empire.
The big guys next door.
Right. So Muthanna says, "We have a strict non-interference treaty with the Persian kings. So we will protect you from any Arab threat, no matter how large. But if the Persian Empire comes after you, we cannot and will not break our treaty for you."
It's basically like a modern tech startup being offered a massive, life-saving buyout by a giant corporation. The money is there, the security is there, but the contract has a clause that allows the corporation to censor your core product if it offends their international partners.
That's a perfect analogy.
It's a half measure.
And just like with Behara, the prophet's response is absolute. He praises their honesty, because Muthanna was being very transparent about his limitations, but he refuses the sanctuary.
Wow. He says no again.
He tells them that the religion of God requires total commitment. You cannot shoehorn a divine mandate into the loopholes of human political treaties or, hedge your bets against earthly kings.
He would rather walk back into the hostile, dangerous streets of Mecca with absolutely nothing than compromise the structural integrity of the message.
It takes unbelievable faith.
The sheer trust he had in the divine plan, especially when every visible metric is screaming at him to compromise, is just breathtaking.
But you see, that absolute trust is the precise mechanism that prepared him for the door that was finally about to open. After years of navigating the arrogance of Meccan elites and the calculated geopolitics of the Bedouin tribes, a miraculous, entirely different kind of door opens to the north.
In Medina,
Yes, in an agricultural city called Yathrib, which we now know as Medina.
he meets a small group of men from Medina's Khazraj tribe. He invites them to sit, he explains the message, and they just accept it.
Just like that.
No demands for post-war political power. No clauses about neighboring empires, just pure acceptance. It feels so abrupt after all that rejection. Why Medina? What made them the fertile soil that Mecca wasn't?
It wasn't random at all. It was a sociologically perfect storm. Medina was quite literally bleeding to death. The two dominant Arab tribes there, the Az and the Khazraj, had been locked in brutal, multi-generational civil wars.
Just decades of fighting.
Yes, culminating in the horrific Battle of Bu'ath, which effectively wiped out most of their senior leadership. The society was on the absolute brink of total collapse, just exhausted by endless blood feuds.
So they didn't need a warlord or a geopolitical strategist. They were dying for a neutral, moral arbitrator to break this cycle of violence.
Exactly. Furthermore, their Jewish neighbors in Medina had heavily influenced the cultural zeitgeist there. The Jewish tribes frequently spoke of an anticipated prophet.
So they were primed for it.
The conceptual framework was already there. So when the Khazraj heard the prophet preaching pure monotheism alongside profound social justice and equality, the puzzle pieces locked together. They realized this was the unifying force they desperately needed to survive.
They return the next year with more men, 12 in total, to formalize their commitment. And they take what becomes famously known as the Pledge of the Women. I want to pause here because that title is so incredibly specific.
It really is.
12 seasoned men take this pledge, but it's named the Pledge of the Women because it was entirely, fundamentally devoid of warfare or military alliances.
And that is exactly why it worked. Think about it. If the prophet had offered Medina a military alliance, it would have just become another faction in their endless civil war.
More fuel on the fire.
Exactly. Instead, this pledge was a profound moral reset. They swore not to associate partners with God, not to steal, not to lie, to protect children. And remember, infanticide was a tragically common practice then, and to uphold what is universally right.
It was a spiritual contract.
Yes, designed to rebuild the basic ethical foundation of a completely shattered society.
And to nurture this fragile new community, the prophet sends an ambassador to Medina, a young man named Musab bin Umair. And if we want to talk about emotional weight, Musab's story is staggering.
It really is one of the most emotional arcs of this era.
Before finding the message, Musab was the golden boy of Mecca. He was incredibly wealthy, pampered, wore custom fabrics, and this detail always gets me. His imported perfume was so distinct you knew he had walked down a street long after he left.
Right, he had everything the material world could offer. But when he recognized the truth of the prophet's message, he didn't just casually adopt a new belief, he sacrificed his entire reality.
Everything.
His powerful family boycotted him, stripping him of all his wealth. He went from absolute, unimaginable luxury to sheer, desperate poverty. Years later, when Musab fell on the battlefield, the Muslim community was so poor they didn't even have a large enough piece of cloth to use as a shroud. If they pulled the cloth over his head, his feet were exposed. If they covered his feet, his face showed. The prophet wept at the sight, instructing them to cover his face with the cloth and use sweet-smelling grass and leaves to cover his feet.
It is a devastating image, just so sad. But it really highlights the profound purity of his character. This was the man stripped of all earthly wealth, but radiating an immense spiritual clarity who was sent to Medina to teach.
Yes.
And his approach in Medina was nothing short of legendary.
It truly was. There's this one moment where Musab is in a garden in Medina, teaching a small group of new Muslims. And two furious tribal leaders, Usaid bin Hudayr and Saad bin Muad, decide they're going to violently shut him down.
Oh, boy.
Usaid charges into the garden, gripping his spear, screaming threats, demanding that Musab stop brainwashing the weak and leave their city immediately.
I mean, in any normal historical narrative, this is the inciting incident for a battle. Swords are drawn, blood is spilled.
But Musab completely short-circuits the confrontation. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't stand up to posture defensively.
He just sits there.
He looks up at this furious armed warrior with a radiant, unshakable calmness and offers a disarmingly simple invitation. He just says, "How about you sit down and hear what I have to say? If you like it, you can accept it. If you dislike it, we will leave you in peace."
Just, wow. Just sit down and listen. You can almost feel the air leave the room.
It was an appeal to profound rationality and fairness. Usaid, who was caught entirely off guard by this total lack of resistance, drives his spear into the dirt and actually sits down.
Amazing.
And as Musab recites the Quran and outlines the moral framework of the message, the witnesses report physically seeing the anger melt off Usaid's face. The light of understanding settles over him before he even speaks a word.
And it creates this incredible domino effect. Usaid accepts the message, goes back, and sends down the other furious leader, Sa'd bin Mu'adh. Sa'd charges in, equally enraged, and Musab uses the exact same tactic.
Radical calmness.
Radical calmness. Just sit and listen. And by the end of that single evening, an entire clan in Medina converts. No swords were swung, no political favors were traded, just the pure magnetic force of beautiful, unyielding character.
It perfectly synthesizes the entire journey we've explored today. From the bleeding, lonely night in Taif, through the arrogant rejections of the tribal elites, to the peaceful, moral victory in that garden in Medina.
It's such a complete arc.
This narrative proves that enduring change isn't engineered by forcing your way through closed doors or selling out your core values for a temporary advantage. It is built on an uncompromising adherence to truth.
It radically redefines how we should look at success, honestly. We are so conditioned to seek immediate wins. But legacy is built in the quiet planting of seeds in winter, knowing you might never even see the spring.
Right?
It's built in walking away from lucrative deals that demand your integrity.
Exactly. And I want to leave you with a concept to mull over, one that perfectly captures what Musab did in that garden. In modern psychology, there's a concept called non-complementary behavior.
Non-complementary behavior.
Yeah. It's the idea that humans naturally mirror the emotions presented to them. If someone yells, you naturally want to yell back. If someone is aggressive, you become defensive.
Right. Fight or flight.
But when someone breaks that script, when they meet intense hostility with unexpected, radical warmth and calm, it completely destabilizes the aggressor's brain. It forces them to stop and reevaluate reality. Science is only just now mapping the psychological mechanisms of de-escalation that Musab weaponized flawlessly over 1,000 years ago.
That's incredible.
So think about this. When you're faced with a spear, whether that's literal or metaphorical, how often do you try to match that aggression instead of radiating a piece so profound that the other person has no choice but to sit down and listen?
A truly mind-blowing question to carry forward. Thank you so much for joining us on this emotional and legendary deep dive into a legacy that continues to shape the world. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.